Hello my guys, gals, and non-binary pals, and welcome back to another video. So in this video, I'm going to be taking candy and turning them into princesses. Well, okay, that's what the title says. I'm actually turning them into royalty. They can be princes, princesses, whatever, but you know, princesses is better for the title. But if you do like this video, please make sure you do subscribe. I've been trying to reach 2,000 subscribers for a long time now, and we still haven't hit it, so make sure you help that goal happen. And on with the video. So the first one I want to do was a Hersheys Kiss because I felt like, I had to do a chocolate one, and the Hersheys Kiss has a more interesting shape and a lot more interesting stuff I can work with rather than just like a chocolate bar. So that's what I went with first. So I pulled up a ton of, and by a ton I mean 2 reference images, one focusing on the wrapping and one focusing on the actual candy. Then I also wrote down every potential flavor that I saw. I didn't know they had birthday cake Hersheys Kisses or cookies and cream ones, but apparently they do. I also think they have mint ones, but I either didn't see it on the Wikipedia page or I forgot to write it. Wikipedia, up your game. So, the things that really jumped out from me about the Hersheys Kisses were the ribbons that they have, the foil wrapping, and then the shape. So those are the big things that are going to be used in this character design. So based on the shape of the Hersheys Kiss, I immediately thought of like a giant princess dress, which is actually how this video became about turning candy into royalty instead of just turning candy into humans. So I took that shape and then made the dress out of tin foil. And I also added like a little ribbon around her neck, which at first I thought was going to be out of the ribbons inside the Hersheys Kiss, but eventually it just became a normal string bow with the blue accent color. Then I tried to draw shoes, and I just gave up and decided that the dress was going to be long enough to cover her feet, because shoes are a struggle for me, even more than hands. Hands I can at least attempt and work on and will usually get somewhere. Feet, it's like I toss a coin and maybe I'll have a good shoe, Then I attempted to do like maybe some hair made out of tin foil for her, but that looked really weird, so then I did like strands of hair that were like the ribbons, and I liked that a lot better. Then I decided I'd throw like each of the flavors somewhere in her hair, like, maybe do some caramel syrup or like some chunks of dark chocolate. And after this rough design, I moved on to making an actual drawing. So I drew her like ribbon dancing because I want to have more of that ribbon in the design. And that's like a princessy activity, isn't it? I don't know, being graceful and ribbon dancing sounds pretty princessy to me. So I started out with the basic outline, and I was going to add a lot of the details like her face, the actual strands of the ribbon, and like some of the crinkles in her dress later. But while I was drawing the dress, I forgot to add crinkles to like the actual outline until I got to the top part. So it's a bit smooth down there. There are like crinkles inside the dress, but yeah, I did kind of forget to add more crinkles around there for the tin foil. Then also the strands of hair were looking kind of weird because they're, there's some movement to them. So doing that with like individual clumps of hair is not something I've really done. So it was a bit weird, but it looks okay in the end, especially with all the stuff in the hair that distracts. So then I was really liking it so far, actually. And I moved on to coloring. So all the ribbons, I made them a light gray. The foil and the eyes are a more medium gray. I decided the eyes would be nice as like that foil color, and I would make them extra highlighted to kind of make them look foilish. I thought about having the eyes be blue, but I don't know. I think gray just worked better in the end. Though I do wish there was a bit more of that blue in this drawing. Then I made the skin like the color of the chocolate, except it's not quite dark enough to be the chocolate color, which made like when I added the dark chocolate chunks and the Oreo chunks for the different flavors, it does make those stand out more as a different color. And it would have been harder if I didn't make her skin a bit lighter, but it doesn't exactly scream Hersheys Kiss. Then I started adding in all the flavored chunks. So I started off with the colors for some reason, I don't know. And I did a layer on top of all this. So yeah, I had caramel strands, some dark chocolate chunks, some almonds, some white chocolate chunks, some Oreo cookie chunks, and then some confetti to be like birthday cake. Those were all the big flavors I saw. Then I did the outline for them all. There wasn't really much detail I need to add to any of them. The almonds, I added like 2 lines inside each of them to make them look more nutty. And then I did have some struggle with the confetti since there's so many tiny little dots. I had to get a really small brush size and just go very gently around them. It was very painful. And then I moved on to making the line art colored. So I used a clipping mask and went over the whole thing. Now I don't always do this with my art, but the big reason I did it here is for that bow around her neck. I want to make that blue instead of black, so one, it would actually pop out against the rest of the line art, and also to bring in more of that blue like I said. So I did kind of need to do a clipping mask if I want that to work. Plus I'd already put in a lot of time into this drawing so far, so what's a bit more time anyway to make it look nicer. Then I moved on to just some basic shading, you know, just shading underneath things, adding some highlights, pretty easy stuff. And then I knew I was going to have to tackle the tin foil. I struggle a lot with adding like different metallic textures or like shading things to look like different textures in general. Like one time I tried to draw a coin and it was a horrible experience. So this tinfoil was bringing back memories from that. Like looking at this complicated reference and trying to figure out the pattern in it, like, and how I could simplify this. So at first what I just did is like shaded around all the crinkles with like the light source in mind. And then I smoothed it out. And I thought it looked better before I smoothed it out with that much harsher look. Because, you know, tinfoil is very like reflective surface. So it does have a lot more contrast in the shadows and highlights. So it really wasn't looking right, especially after I blended it all out. So I looked at the reference a bit more and I noticed like whole patches of the tinfoil that was more elevated and captured more light, stuff that was more further back and you know, was a lot darker because it didn't get any of that light. So I tried to draw those like giant patches and like decide, okay, this whole chunk is more elevated, this one isn't, and doing that, and that made it look a lot more tinfoily. I did all that shading around the actual crinkles again though, and this time like kind of drew them out more, not just based on the crinkles that I had lined, but also like the crinkles that are probably there in general, if that makes sense. Then I messed around with it a bit more, smoothed it out some, and it could be a bit more harsher, but I think it is pretty good, especially for a first attempt. You know, that's better than I would expect myself to do. Then I just add a little title in the corner with the drawing of the candy and its name, and that was pretty much done. And I really like this drawing, I'll be real. I put a lot of effort into it, I tried a lot of new things, and I love all the little details. I feel like it doesn't scream Hersheys Kiss that much, especially with all like candy in the hair, just seems more general candy-ish. And a lot of what I actually did pull from is like the wrapping. So it's not the most Hersheys Kiss thing. And also, once again, I feel like I could have some more of that blue in there, maybe around like that, like waistband around her waist or in her eyes. You know, I just feel like that blue's in like 2 places and very underrepresented. Then I moved on to the next drawing, and I decided this one would be Sour Patch Kids, since I wanted to do something that wasn't chocolatey, so I decided maybe something more on the sour side. Now, disclaimer, I don't actually like Sour Patch Kids. I've never really eaten them. I don't eat them, so I don't know much about them. So this one I had to do a bit more research for. I knew this one was going to be a prince though, because based on like the candy's shape and how they're portrayed in like ads and stuff, I feel like that design would be easier to pull into a prince. So what I did is I wrote all the possible colors down, some of the flavor differences, wrote down like packaging, then also like their phrase, the first they're sour then they're sweet, and I also drew a sketch of like the actual candy, and then a sketch of how they're portrayed in ads, that like 3D cartoon character. So originally it was going to be one guy with these big glasses to be like the eyes they have, and then the hair was going to have like 4 big puffs to be like the shape of the candy. And then besides that was gonna be like a standard prince outfit, just in the Sour Patch Kids color, and then have those little like crystals that are on the candy. Once again, haven't eaten the candy. I don't know what those are. I assume it's like sugar or some sort of like sour powder that's on them. But, you know, I feel like that is a very unique thing about the candy and sets it apart from just like looking gummy-ish. So I was going to have that all over him. But I felt like this wasn't really inspiring, you know, it wasn't Sour Patch Kids enough. You know, I just felt like it was missing something. So then I decided to make an idea based off of the first they're sour, then they're sweet like slogan they have. So I'd have this one kid who's really like mean and bad, and then another kid who's really nice. So they'd be like these twins. And so that's what I decided to go with. So I just took that like first design I made of the prince, turned them into kids, which is smarter since it's Sour Patch Kids. And then drew like one holding a bat, about to swing it down, and the other with flowers. I didn't have too much struggle during the sketching phase. There was a couple issues with like the proportions of the nice kid versus the mean kid, but I fixed that up when I start lining the mean kid. And then I moved on to line art, and I'm going to be real, I think this is one of the most horrific drawing experiences I've ever had. Like, just looking at this video clip makes me sick. It's not even that bad. When I describe it, you're not going to think it's that bad, because you're going to have no concept of how much time I spent looking at this thing and trying to fix it. So first I started with the nice kid. And you know, I started with the face, that was going okay. There's a bit of a struggle with the glasses and having them be like circular but not too perfect, but it was going fine. Then I moved on to the rest of the body, and the neck is a bit too big. The shoulders are a bit wonky. Figuring out that whole situation was, you know, it was a bit difficult. But once again, not too hard. It does end up being a little wonky, but it's fine. You know, then I start drawing the arms, and then I drew like the part of the coat that comes out the belt. You know, it's just going on. I had some problems with the shoes. You know, I always struggle with shoes. I've been over this. They look like boots though. It's fine. But the whole drawing looked a bit off and I couldn't place it. And so I decided I'd flip it, which I don't usually do because I forget. But I remembered to do it this time, so I flipped the line art and oh my god, it's horrific. The shoulder issue's a bit bigger than I thought, and like the body, the whole entire body below the arms is horrible. It's not centered, it's like really slanted for some reason. The coat below the belt is like weird. The feet suck, but I knew that was gonna happen, so wasn't surprised by that one. So then I spent forever fixing that like part of the body that was really weird, and like fixing up the coat. It took forever, but it looks like it didn't take that long because I spent so long drawing it, then undoing it because it didn't look right, and Ibis Paint doesn't really save in their videos you drawing and then undoing something, so you can't actually see how long that took, but it took forever. And honestly, this drawing would have needed so much help that I probably should have just started over, so just kind of moved on and left it kind of weird. So I moved on to the mean kid then. So I drew some lines for like all the key features, like here's where the feet start, here's where the boots end, here's where the coat starts, the belt, things like that, so that I could have them more proportionate. And then I edited the sketch and moved it around to fit those proportions. And honestly, this kid didn't really have too many problems going on, which is really ironic because the nice kid was the problem child in this drawing. You know, I had some problems drawing the bat because drawing like 2 symmetrical straight lines for a long period of time is kind of difficult. And, you know, drawing the legs was a bit hard, but that was just because I was a bit too lazy to draw 2 legs. So for both of those problems, it was nothing a little bit of like copy and pasting and transforming couldn't fix. The hands are also a bit wonky, but they're not that noticeable. So then I moved on to the coloring. So I took like the saturated colors of all the main colors that Sour Patch Kids came in and put them into the hair as like little patches, then blended them out a bit to give that candy, to give the vibe of Sour Patch Kids. Then the crown, I made that same yellow and the same red, green, and blue. Then the eyes and the buttons, I made like the watercolor Sour Patch colors. Then the bad kid, I made the coat green, the pants yellow, and the boots red. And then for the nice kid, I did the same thing, but I swapped the red and the green, just to add a bit of variation between the two. Then the skin color came from that orange color, just a bit lighter, which is why I don't have any orange in the outfit. And then there wasn't a lot of blue going on, so I did make that the color of the flowers, but it's just kind of underrepresented in this drawing. Then I added all those little crystals, and I added a white overlay to the glasses. Then I moved on to the shading, and there was a big question with the shading. Since there's a lot of colors going on this, so I knew I wasn't going to use like darker colors of each individual color, since this is like a giant multicolor mistake. But I also didn't want to shade in black because I don't like shading in black. Whenever I do, I know it's because I'm being lazy and I feel horrible whenever I do it, so I wasn't going to do that either. So I decided I would choose a specific color and shade using that. So I looked at all the colors and tried to decide what would go well with it. And the real answer for like what would go best with all these colors is a dark yellow, since there's no purple, so there's not a color that's going to contrast with really bad and like create a weird gray with. But dark yellow is a super ugly color, so I shaded in dark blue. So it honestly just turned out looking like shading in black would have. It's pretty much just as bad. I mean, it's not that bad, but like it didn't change anything. Then for the background, I had the colors of the package with that like bright green and bright yellow. And then I drew a little title thing like I did for the kisses, and it was pretty much done. I don't hate it as much as I expected to based on like the whole drawing process. But still, looking at it, it gives me bad memories, so yeah, I don't like looking at this drawing. Now, if you do have any ideas for what we could name these kids or the Hersheys Kiss girl, comment them down below. Also, if you want more videos like this, cause I would love to do more drawing blank as royalty or drawing blank as humans in general. Make sure to like this video and subscribe so I know you enjoy it. You can also follow me on my social media and tell me you enjoyed it there. And I will see you all next week.